Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, leave it in the ring.
And welcome back to another edition of LIITR Ring Radio. I'm your host, Dave Duenez. Hey, we apologize. We weren't on last week. Just a lot of shit came up and stuff. So we'll get to all of that. Don't worry about it. But we got a special guest with us right now. On the top of the hour here of LIITR Ring with myself and my co-host, LIITR, we got King-Tristan Kalkreuth, who's a prospect cruiserweight from Golden Boy. Hey, man, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You know, so far, we've been watching you for quite some time, you know, just like everybody else, you know, the whole world. Everybody's going to tell you, we've been watching you, you know, so you can consider us a couple of stalkers. And the only reason why we've been watching you so closely is because we're hardcore boxing fans here, you know. Let me ask you this, man. Before we get into the whole boxing talk, okay, I'm going to tell you one of my stories about
I don't know if
paintballing.
y'all can hear me, but
No, I can hear you. We can hear you pretty good. Can you hear him, LIITR?
There's a little bit of a delay, I think, but I can hear you now too.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
No
sorry.
worries.
What was the question? I had some problems.
So, Mike, before we get into the whole boxing talk with you, because I'm big on that paintballing myself. I'm not very good unless you put me in with like 5-year-olds and 8-year-olds, dude. Where I was like eliminating all these little kids, right? And they were all like, they all teamed up on me and stuff. But let me ask you, are you one of the pro ones where like you're like the finger, like you barely touch it and the paintballs just start flying out real crazy? Or do you go on the like, you know, semi-pro guys section?
Well, it's hard to say because I'm a rookie, but I got the high tech stuff, you know. So I could do the trigger finger, you know. I got nice gear. But at the same time, you know, I'm still learning. I'm playing with the people that's been there for years.
Now, are you wearing the whole jumpsuit and everything, or are you just going out there with like regular tee? Because I made the mistake of going out there with just like sweats, which was stupid. Because I ended up like having these big old welts on my legs, and then I act like a regular t-shirt and stuff. I got all scratched up because you know when I heard about it, right? When I heard about it, I was like, okay, I thought it was like laser tag or something, right? Then I get out there and dude, I saw guys like camoed out. Like there was literally a lot of people that were really into this. You know what I mean? Like they had teams. People have been doing it like career-wise type of folks that were out there to paintball.
Well, you know, it's kind of reversed to me. You know, I came out there with a whole bunch of gear, and it hurts. You know, it's not like a little laser tag. No, them paintballs hurt. And, you know, once I started playing a lot, it started getting, the stuff I started wearing started kind of getting hot. So I kind of loosened up the clothes because I was kind of already used to the getting hit by paintball. So now I just go out there with sweats and a, you know, long sleeve shirt and with a vest over it. And I'm good to go.
I know the weather out there. I mean, if you're playing out there, Texas weather is completely different from California weather, man. So, you know, the heat is just like scorching down on you, man. What do you think is more... What have you found about paintballing where you kind of compare it? Because I know you've played basketball, football, and you know boxing is obviously the thing you've kind of, you know, embraced, and you're trying to make a whole complete career out of it. But do you rank paintballing up there in terms of like you have to have? I know you have to have eye coordination and athleticism. Is it up there along that type of intensity?
You mean like towards the other sports?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. But me, I just play for fun. But they had this little area in the back where all the pros play, and man, they're active. Like they don't stop shooting until the match is over, and they move. And I'm like, that's a whole nother level. But I just play with. I have a group that I go to, and we just, you know, shoot around a little bit. We play, but I mean, you definitely have to have skills to do paintball.
Now you don't have that mentality, the competitive mentality, where like if you lose, you're just like, God damn it, I got to do better. I mean, most of the time when somebody's athletic, like it's always they got to have the best moments of the game.
Yeah. You know, I am competitive, but I remember the first time I went, I had like the suckiest gun, and I didn't even know I had the suckiest gun, and it was just like, the bullets when I shot, I was aiming perfectly at the target. I remember I had this dude like just pinned down, and every time I would shoot, the bullets would curve, and I'm like, man, I'm not gonna get mad at myself because I just need to get a new gun. But now I got like a gun, we call it XLS Shocker, and it's a nice, reliable gun, so I'm good to go.
No, it's a really fun game. Definitely. Go ahead, Amilcar.
No, that's awesome, Tristan. And it's good to see that you have kind of an outlet outside of boxing that can kind of keep you active and competitive, because obviously you can't just do boxing 24/7, 365. Although
Right.
you have dedicated yourself to the sport really at a young age. Can you tell us a little bit and our community a little bit about how you got into boxing and how you ended up doing something that a lot of middle school and high school boxing fans wish they could do, which was actually pro boxing while you were in high school?
Well, I got into boxing when I was around 8 and 9 years old, and I tried many sports before, like basketball, soccer, football, and I don't know, just something about combat sports where, like, it was just, I was real interested in. I don't know if it's just that that's the only place where you could, get at somebody. And nah, I'm just fine. but it's just something something that, something about boxing. I like combat sports. And it was between karate and boxing. And I had to make a choice. And I was like, I just felt like boxing was just way harder.
Hey, I gotta ask this just really quick. When you're playing basketball or even like paintballing, does it ever just kind of go in the back of your head when, like, you know what, man, if we weren't doing this sport, I could punch you in the face and I can end all the competitivism here. I'm the best at this one here. You're lucky. You're lucky we're not in the ring. Has that ever went through your head?
I know where you're coming from. And yeah, I think it has, because I remember when I first started playing and I was just getting tagged up because I had no experience. I'm like, and I first in my head, I was like, man, like, cause they were so good on the field. I'm like, man, I know this isn't my sport. I know I belong in the ring, so I didn't even trip.
Right. So 8 years old, you start boxing, and right, you're in elementary school at the time, I guess. So how do you go from an 8-year-old that started in boxing? I'm guessing you had your parents' support to where you are now, which is a young prospect rising up the cruiserweight ranks.
Definitely, I had a strong foundation, and take my hats off to my parents. They're always there for me, and they're the reasons why I'm here where I am today. But it's just staying dedicated. I stayed dedicated. My pops, he wanted me to learn from his mistakes, and he said that one mistake he made was trying multiple sports. All these different sports, and I just stayed dedicated to boxing. My pops, when I was around 14, 15, I won my first national USA national title, and ever since then I've been just going up and up. And that's when it was around 2018, I believe, where I was 17 and you had to be 18. I was caught right in between turning going to the Olympics or being able to qualify for the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I had at that time I had 92. I was 92-9. That was my amateur record, and I was like, I talked with my team, and I was like, I have a good skill set, have enough experience, and let's take this into the pros. And that's when we got with Lester Bedford, which is my manager, and Ronnie Shields, which trained Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, and Pernell Whitaker, and also trains Jamal Charlo today.
Yeah, and I think he trained the Cuban as well out there in Texas.
Yep.
Yeah, Rizardi Lara. So as an amateur, you were fighting, I guess, at the tail end of your amateur career as what, a light heavyweight, a heavyweight, 91 kilos? What was your weight class, I guess?
I think it was 81 kilos, I think, or something like that. It was light heavyweight.
Yeah, all right. 81's light heavyweight, right? 91's heavyweight in the amateur game. Awesome. So now you're rising up the cruiserweight ranks. People are starting to notice you. You've been on TV a few times. You've been on some big cards. What are your goals immediate goals and the kind of long-term goals in the sport?
Well, my short-term goal is to get to 10-0. That's my short-term goal, you know. So we're focused on is my short-term goal. And then, you know, obviously, you know, my long-term goal is to eventually get to the bigger fights and, you know, stack on, you know, as much experience as I can and eventually get to a world championship fight.
You know, I know you mentioned I know you mentioned your dad, and your dad obviously had a big influence and stuff. Just really quick, what caught my eye with you was your name. My son's name is also Tristan. Okay,
Oh,
and he was
really?
he was also competing in the amateurs as well until he decided that he didn't want to move forward with it. But let me ask you about your dad because obviously he's the one that introduced you to this. What was some of his fighters that your father looked up to and kind of try to mold you into being?
Uh, that's a good question. I know one of the fighters that my pops liked the most was Sugar Ray Robinson,
Yes.
and I believe Sugar Ray Robinson was a heavyweight, if I'm not mistaken. But it's hard to tell because compared to the heavyweights today and the ones you know in the past, or they're way different in size. But Sugar Ray Robinson was, I could say, would it was one of the fighters I really started watching first, and I was like, after watching him fight, I kind of wanted to get into boxing, and that's where you know my pops had a friend, which his cousin owned a gym called Rock Boxing Academy, and those were one of the first gyms I went to.
I know you were kind of because I've heard a few of your interviews, and I know you guys would even your dad would mention Virgil Ortiz. Why this so much respect? I mean, is it? And I know you guys have mentioned his work ethic and all that, but and you guys even said that you guys want to model yourself and how much this guy puts into the sport, you know. But what really honestly caught your guys' attention about Virgil Ortiz from the beginning?
Well, you know, Virgil, I always been, you know, always seen Virgil, you know, growing up in the amateurs, and I was a little bit younger. He was a little bit older. By the time I was getting into boxing, he was, you know, he was already fighting in national. He already had national titles and stuff like that. So I'll always see him. I always see him in tournaments and stuff like that. And he was a beast, you know. And I remember the first time I saw him like actually rock somebody was in or drop him was in Golden Gloves, and I'm like, man, this dude's a beast.
Hmm.
And we've been to his gym multiple times, and we've seen him work out, spar, and you know, and he works hard. You know, he trains hard, and we actually came from the same high school.
Oh wow,
So
okay.
yeah, we actually came out of the same high school.
Man, you
Did
talk
you
about motivation. That's a good way of keeping you motivated when you see one of your peers, come out from the same spot. I'm sorry, Milcar, go ahead.
I was just going to ask because I know that Virgil was a standout cross country runner in his high school. Would you run cross country as well, Tristan?
No, I don't like I don't
It's
like
a tough
track.
sport. It's a tough sport.
Yeah, track is a really tough sport. It's tough. You got to be in, you know, top shape for that.
I
All
did
Yeah,
people.
I
absolutely.
did some form of track running back in my days in Milcar, but we called it beer run. Don't do that, Tristan. Don't ever go that route.
So, you know, the one thing that's got a lot of people excited about you, Tristan, is that the cruiserweight division has not really been noticed as much as I think it should have in the United States. I think it's all been a really action-packed division. It's really what the heavyweight division used to be 20, 25 years ago. If you look at the weights of the fighters, who do you kind of look up to right now in the cruiserweight division? Kind of who do you see as the top standout guys that you'd like to be up there with, you know, in years to come?
You know, it's hard because you know there's not really that many cruiserweight champions that you know are in United States. Most of them are in Europe, you know, cross seas,
Right.
things like that. So, but I mean, Man, that's a hard question. I need to do more of my research.
Right. I mean, recent guys obviously have been Usyk, who stepped up. I've always been high on Maris Bradis. I used to be really high on the KO Dr. Dorticos out of Cuba. But there are a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
exciting.
I know that guy.
In
He has a good right hand. He has a good right hand.
oh yeah, absolutely. So let me just bring up a question from one of the members of our community here in the chat. My man Nando asks, is competing at heavyweight a future goal of yours?
Ronnie, he thinks I'll eventually be a heavyweight. You know, my team, last year thinks I'll also be a heavyweight. So me, I'm just going through the process right now.
Absolutely.
But I
No need to rush it.
I'll eventually see about in 3, 4 years. I'll be competing in heavyweight.
I like
Right, well, there've been. So go ahead, Dave.
I was gonna say I like the fact that you mentioned earlier, your goal, like short-term goal and then long-term goal. I think that's the right way of going through, a process because you got to reach something first, and then you set the bar higher and higher and higher and stuff. Clay Stevenson says, "What's up, Tristan?" This is Clay Stevenson shouting out at you.
What's going on, Clay?
When you're first off, Ronnie Shields, man, I gotta say, I've interviewed him a lot of times. He's been on the show plenty of times. I've met up with him in person. He's really an underrated trainer. Like, he doesn't get the credit that he should be getting. And he's worked with a lot of world champions. And one of his top guys at the time in the early 2000s was a guy by the name of Thomas Adamick, who he trained and helped out to defeat Kristen Nightmare Oriella, who didn't look like Thomas had a chance. So he obviously is a guy that's going to point you in the right direction and stuff. But let me ask you but what are some of the jewels that he's passing on to you? I mean, do you guys sit and watch any fight tape? What is the day with Ronnie Shields when you're starting up the day with him to get prepared?
Well, so normally, like, for existence, for saying, my pro debut, we went down there about 3-4 days in a week. And then we'll come back, train, and then we'll go back there. We'll go back down there again. And, when we go to Ronnie's gym, it's straight work. It's not like super strict or like, you can have fun and stuff, but it's like the energy is different than going to, a gym that, has amateurs and, kids in it, which it's not a bad thing, but it's just the energy at Ronnie's is, straight work. And I feel like that's, to me personally, that's the type of energy I need to, keep proceeding and keep, getting better and better each day. There's people I spar there. There's a cruiserweight, FA Tobar. He's actually ranked. He's a ranked cruiserweight, and we give each other great work. And I learned a lot from sparring him. And it's just Ronnie he symbolizes boxing. He keeps it simple and effective. The things he teaches me are effective. And it's just about me personally. It's just about getting better each camp. Each camp I go, right. Each fight I go, learn something new.
I remember you mentioning that the locker room is a pretty lonely place. But then Ronnie kind of does some stuff to get because you were so nervous on your pro debut.
All right.
But when we think about father and son trainers, which I think it was really big of your dad to go, you know what, we need in order for us to excel and move to the next part of your career, we got to look out for further advice. And I think it's really courageous for him to actually, admit that and move on with that. But who's the biggest critic in your circle when I know you're going to say it's you, but I mean, outside of that, is your dad your biggest critic? Is he like somebody that he's very tough to satisfy? Or has Ronnie shown that kind of sign of him being a biggest critic to you?
Well, I gotta put first because, I remember one time I sparred and I just felt like the man, I just felt like the man. I was doing my thing and, everybody was giving me praise, stuff like that. And then we went home. He was like, your jab, like, you're dropping your jab and,
right.
You drop your right hand when you throw. And so I was like, man, I thought, what else you want me to do? I thought I did everything right today, So I said my pops, and definitely Ronnie. You know, when it's very rare that Ronnie compliments me, and stuff. So when he gives you like compliment, you know that he really means it. Like, let's say my last fight,
Uh-huh.
he said that I have one of the the best left hooks in the game. The first compliment I ever heard from Ronnie. I was shocked. But yeah, he keeps it real. Ronnie keeps it real with you, and it definitely in sparring. He will, like, if I'm not doing something right, he won't sugarcoat it. He'll
Right.
go straight. He'll give me the straight answer. I need to pivot. I need to use my legs more. I need to pop my jab more. So those are my two biggest critics right there.
Who's your medium? Like, who's the one that balances it all out? Because we haven't heard much about moms, or I don't know if you have any other siblings. Like, who's the person that balances it out for you, where they kind of bring you back to ground?
I say my mom. You know, my mom's the we like to say is the mama, but she always has she always has our side. Even if we're wrong in a conversation or anything, she'll defend us.
That's how it goes, man. Definitely. How does she feel about you boxing, though? I mean, I'm pretty sure mom. Does she go to your events? I mean, is she like your biggest cheerleader?
Oh yeah, she's definitely my biggest cheerleader, and I could see at first she was kind of like, this, I don't know if this is a good idea, because like, you got to put yourself in a mother's mindset. Who wants to see their kid take punches and fight,
Right. Right.
And she was a little bit nervous at first, but once I started getting, winning more and getting more experience, and I started taking off, and she likes it now. She likes watching me fight, and she's been there since day one.
That's awesome. Amilcar?
Yeah. Really, I was asking the chat if they had more questions for you, but I'm guessing your plan is to stay focused and to stay put in Texas, right? I know a lot of people move around.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Yep, you're happy
Yes,
with the sparring and the training out there, right?
yes, definitely. That's one of the things that my manager Lester Bedford mentioned to me, that he wanted me to be built, in my hometown, Dallas, Duncanville, that in around that area, like basically how they built, Errol Spence, and I think that's a good idea, because me personally, I don't want to step out of my environment, my foundation, what got me to where I'm at, so I just feel like I should just build up here and just keep stacking the blocks and keep getting that experience, and eventually open up my own gym, and I think it'll all work out.
That's awesome, man.
I got one more question for you, Tristan. Obviously Golden Boy hasn't really produced or really worked with guys that are in the cruiserweight or even in the heavyweights. I could be wrong, but right now off the top of my head, I can't remember a standout name that they've worked with and pushed and promoted. Um, what is the plan? Is this something that's discussed with you, or is this something that you're going just through the motions and the process, and you're just dependent on them making the right decisions with you, or do you and your dad have a plan? Have you guys sat with each other and said, okay, this is what Golden Boy said they're going to do and how they're going to maneuver us into the rankings and into the eyes to the public?
Of course, one of our plans, you know, when we sat down and we looked at the contract before we signed the contract, and actually my pops is on here.
I saw that right now. I was like, Sean, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
But one of our things when we sat down was and Golden Boy, told us and my team that the way they wanted me to build me was like the old school legendary fighters, fights, fighting, a bunch of times, seven fights per year. Their first couple years, getting them experience, stacking up that fights, and that's where we're at now. Unfortunately, COVID hit, but I feel like Golden Boy, got boxing back on track, and we're back. We're back where we left off. And it's a real good plan. That's my goal. That's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is to keep gaining that knowledge, keep gaining that experience. And me personally, most experience that I gain is really not from when I fight. It's from when I put in work into the gym and into sparring. Sparring these older cats that's had about 15 fights, 20 fights, and it helps me prepare, for tough fights, that are laid out in the future. And one thing that my pops told me is that I have to train. Doesn't matter who I fight, I have to train every camp that I'm training for a world champion, and that's just been my mindset.
In our chat room right now, Nato's asking, does Tristan enjoy watching boxing? And who is your favorite current fighters at the moment?
Of course, my coaches, my coaches and my dad, they actually send me videos to study, because to be honest, if they don't send me videos, I probably probably be kicking with my friends or something and not but that I that's a good thing that my coaches are sending me videos like that, and I go back and study them. And first thing I say, one of my old school fighters that I like of all time is Winky Wright. I like his style.
Yeah.
Winky Wright, he was steady, breaking people down. I like that type of style. And currently I would say I say Jamal Charlo. It's one of my favorite fighters. Jamal Charlo and Canelo.
Yeah, those are good. Those are two really good current fighters right now that are creating a huge buzz, and hopefully we see one of the Charlos get in with Canelo. So I got this one last question that popped into my head. Okay,
go ahead.
Like we talked about, boxing is a very, very lonely sport. But I think the majority of the sport is a mental thing, and a lot of the mental is the confidence of doing certain things in the ring. What is one thing that you just don't feel you completely have grasped yet in your repertoire of what you bring in the ring? Like, what do you feel like is lacking and that you still haven't got over the hump on?
So say that question again.
What part of when you're in training, what part of your training that you feel you haven't mastered yet? Because like I said, it's a lonely sport. So a lot of times it's your mind that has to conquer what you lack in that ring. So what do you feel that you're lacking at this moment that you feel that you need to bring up in order to move up in those ladders to the elites?
Well, like you said, boxing is, really a mental sport, and it's crazy what you could do, with your mind, what you could do with your body once you get your mind to, cooperate, what you want to do. Like, and for me, I say running, running is kind of tough because, you're running by yourself and you're thinking about a lot of stuff. When I get to 3 miles, I'm thinking about, quitting, thinking about, I hear all them little voices in my head, telling me, my body's tired. And I use that, me pushing through that. I use that in the ring, and sparring and, strength condition. I take that everywhere I go, because if you could push through while you're running and while you're, working out, you could do that in the ring.
Right. That's true. What's crazy about that is that I remember when HBO 24/7 crew used to have that program, that segment, and I would go out there and go to the gyms, and they would be there. Every time I'd walk into these gyms, whoever the fight was about, they were there. And the producers always said they would put their money on the guy that did the most road work, because it seemed like they were the ones that would win the fight. And I was like, how do you know who did the most road work? And he said, because 80% of the film that we were taking or filming was of these guys doing road work.
Yep. So they say hard work beats talent when talent don't work.
That's right.
I know I got talent, and I know I got I know I put in that work. So
there you go, man. Well, here you go.
And you're obviously a student of the game to be dropping the Winky Wright, statement there as one of the guys you look up to, because Not
told
a
you.
lot of people your age would be quoting or mentioning Winky Wright. One last question for you. Sorry, go ahead, Tristan.
I told you, man, my coaches be making sure I do my studying.
There you go. So we got one last question from you, from Clay Stevenson here. Says, hey, Tristan, Texas has a lot of nice amateur talent. Which current fighters in Texas should we watch out for when they turn pro?
So like obviously coming up from the amateurs, right?
Mm-hmm. He hit you with the hard one there.
You say it again?
I said Clay hit you with the hard question there.
Yeah, he did. I have to think about that. I have to think about it. You know, because it's hard. I can't think of a good amateur because, you know, not any amateur fights been going on since COVID.
Right. All right, well,
You know,
we'll come back. We'll come back to that one another time, bro. It's no big deal.
You got me with that one.
I didn't get you. Clay got you.
Oh, man. All right, Tristan. Hey, bro, it was great having you on, man. Enjoyed having you on here. And look forward to the rest of your fights. Tell your pops we said what's up here on Leaving the Ring. And can't wait to have you back on again, man.
Awesome,
yeah, Sean Kalkreuth says the Jenkins twins. I'm sure you've heard of them.
Oh, yeah, the twins. Thanks.
You got a alley-oop there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, the twins. Yeah, they, you know, I've been with them, you know, since I was young, and I even fought one of them. I believe they're walking around 132, and you know, yeah, they put in a lot of work, and I believe they're on the come up.
That's what's up.
So shout out to the Jenkins twins.
There you go. All right. Well, we look forward to seeing a lot more of you, and we hope to see you big waves in the cruiserweight division, young man. And we're very happy to have had you on here. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
There you go. Well, man, really promising kid, man. Good attitude. You know what I like most when I get to, and I've said this a few times on Leaving the Ring where I don't, or maybe I haven't brought this up. I really honestly don't like doing interviews anymore. And I tell you why, because a lot of times, especially prospects, they don't have a lot to say. You know, like nobody grooms them and to how to speak to the media or speak to the fans. This is kind of like a lost art. Like, you know, like Motown had it down to the dial of how to get their artists to look, to behave, how to speak to the crowds and to media. And this kid is just like a natural. He came on and he's smiling and he's having a good time. Not only is he having a good time with his career, you know, in the pro rankings of boxing, which is very difficult to do because you're getting punched in the face for a living, but he comes on here and you can see the kid's full of life. And that's just a great sign that he's being raised right by his parents. So kudos to Sean as well and his mom. And man, look forward to big things for Tristan.
Absolutely. And one thing we didn't get into, but we talked about it with Tristan before he went on air, was that he's still pursuing his education, and he really thinks that the education, education is essential, which it is. And I'm not just saying that as a teacher. I'm saying that because it's true, man. You gotta work on that education while you're working on other things in life.
Absolutely.
But Dave, between me, you, and the great questions we get from the chat, I'm looking forward to a lot more interviews, bro. So keep these guys coming, man, because I'd love to see guys when they're at this stage of their career. I only hope they remember us when they're carrying those titles and are the big time guys as world champs.
Well, they better remember us. We've been here for like 14 years, you know, doing this podcast, and this is what, our second year back on YouTube. This is our first year back on YouTube. A lot of stuff to talk about here on Leaving Ring. I got off the phone earlier. I was telling the milk car this. We are talking to Sebastian Pandora. He's going to be coming on with his dad, Freddie. I was talking to Freddie. They're back into training because they got a fight happening in March. They're going to get that fight that COVID-19 knocked out of the way for them, which was the Cota fight. They're going to go in the ring in March with Cota and finally get that fight, you know, which is a really good move for them. It moves him up towards an IBF title, he was saying. So I'm really looking forward to, getting him on and stuff. Other interviews too. Got other interviews that we're trying to line up. I had to like dig deep and go, okay, because the fact is I can't be selfish. My partner here wants to interview guys, and a lot of the guys in the leader ring rotation want to interview guys. So got to bring that up and do that and stuff. So, but I had a good time interviewing Tristan. I got to tell you that. I had a really good time interviewing him because I like interviewing guys like if we're just sitting across and just BSing, not like, trying to take it too serious or trying to give it too hard or nothing or whatnot,
Absolutely. And I also like the fact that you started off by asking him, what he does outside of the ring. And in this case, it was paintball. So
I love paintballing, bro. I'm not very good, You know
what happened? I met a guy once who had like these welts all over his like arms and legs. I'm like, yo, how'd you get those? He's like, paintball. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know if I want to do that. But yeah, maybe it's something I'll look.
I'm going to tell you a funny story here really quick, and then we'll talk boxing here. There's a lot of stuff for us to talk about. We got to play catch up since we weren't on last week and stuff. But so my kids really got into it because we live here in the Valley. There's a lot of paintballing sites that you can go to. So I was like, cool, man. I'm an inner city kid. Didn't really do that. We were trying to dodge bullets, So it wasn't like I was like immediately trying to get back into something where I got to dodge something else, okay? But I was like, okay, let me go. And then when you get up there, there's the pro, semi-pro, and then there's the newbies, okay? So my kids at the time were like, I don't know, like 8 or 10. I don't really remember how old. This is like right when we moved over here to Modesto, California. And we got in there, dude, and I thought, I'm going to take it easy on the kids. Bro, these little shits were kicking my ass, bro. Like when you got shot, you're supposed to raise your hands up and say, okay, I got shot. No, these guys had no love for me. They had no love for me whatsoever, bro. They were lighting me up, walking like, and then they were and at the time I was in my 30s, like early 30s. They were calling me old man. Get off the field, old man. I mean, and I'm talking like 6, 7-year-old kids talking shit to me. So, dude, I was pissed, right? So I was like, all right. No more Mr. Nice Guy. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna perform, right? Because I got that competitive spirit, like Tristan was talking about here early on in the show, right? So I remember sitting there and I made up a whole strategy in my head. I'm like, okay, because they had like these like a castle made out of plywood, and then like a little plywood house that I could barely fit in. But then they had these big old tubes, right? Like electrical tubes that you could run through. So I started jacking all these little kids up. My wife was cracking up so hard because she was like, you were like in intense and focused mode. Like I was taking everybody out that was within the ages of 8 to 5 years old in the milk car. And I was proud of myself. Like it was like if they had a trophy of destroying little kids, elementary kids, I was proud of myself. You ever watch that episode of Seinfeld where Kramer was in a karate class and he was the adult beating up all the small little kids? That was me.
Oh, wow. So, Dave, real quick, we got some from the chat here, and I think we may want to just start with this because it's not necessarily one of the topics that we've got lined up. But Andrew Casio, Gabe Flores, I don't know if you heard the news, but
it's up there.
It's up there. Okay, so we'll get to that.
No, it's in the ticker there, the news and then results and stuff. But yeah, I did hear about that. And it, COVID-19 again, it's still not over. I know a lot of folks thought that as soon as we rolled into 2021, that things were going to change. And obviously, it seems like we're still in the same state of where we left in 2020. Gabe Flores is looking for a new opponent, and that would have been a great step up for the young warrior out of Stockton, California.
Absolutely.
Top rank, because, Andrew came from Golden Boy. He was dropped after he lost the title. He was dropped, which was made a big, it made headlines, and it also made a lot of people upset. Because here was a blue-collar guy that was doing something that a lot of us wish we could accomplish and do, right? He was the ordinary dude, the guy next door, right? And everybody was rooting for him. And then when Golden Boy dropped him for whatever reason, which I'd love to get him on to talk to him about that. Why that decision, or maybe something's been written about that. But anyways, and Top Rank picks him up and immediately gives him the assignment of a star that they're trying to build, which is Gabe Flores, okay? Junior has definitely made some noise. The only question for me is Gabe's power. Has he grown into his man straight? I don't think so, Milcar. And I honestly think that this was like both on these guys' way of figuring out who's going to move forward in the career in the Top Rank world, in my opinion. It was like do or die. What do you think?
Yeah, it's one of those crossroad fights. And as you've got there on the ticker, another fight that's been postponed, at least. We don't know. I won't want to say canceled. Let's just say postponed.
Right, postponed.
The Josh Kelly, David Venetian fight, which I was looking forward to. I was honestly very interested to see what David Venetian would do against Josh Kelly, Armenian fighter. Those of you who know or have known Armenians or Armenia know that it's a big fighting culture there. Whether it's Darchinian or Vanis or even the cruiserweight champion Gulmarian, there've always been like top Armenian fighters. And they carry a big fan base with them wherever they go. So much so that, in fact, that Venetian is actually more popular in London, where he's now based, than Kelly. So it was a big fight, and again, it took a KO from COVID. So, we got the vaccine rolling out here in New York, Dave. I don't know what the situation is out there in California. Here they've rolled it out with emergency workers now. Teachers are up for it. I can't get an appointment because you got to schedule them and they're all booked. But let's just hope that we can kind of see an end to these fights and boxing being derailed by COVID-19.
Yeah, the vaccine is rolling out. First responders and people that work in the hospital, like my wife, they have received it. They have to take two. There's two different types of vaccines. So hopefully, we start seeing people being able to get provided with that in mid-year this year. Hopefully, like in March or maybe even after March. I don't know. But this is what I do know. Gabe Flores Jr. If he beats Andrew Casino, that's. Maybe I'm alone with this. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think that's a huge name on his resume that he's probably has done more than Shakur Stevenson. I don't see Shakur Stevenson really getting somebody that dangerous because even though Casino lost, he's still very hungry, and he was a titleist. He held the title, and he's dangerous. This kid can outwork Flores Jr., and the reason why I think he could outwork him is because of the punching power that I just mentioned a little earlier about Gabe Flores Jr., okay? Gabe Flores Jr. comes from a rough spot from Stockton, California. So mentality-wise and confidence, it's there. There's no question about that. So I wonder, was it the Floreses that asked for this fight? Or was this Top Rank's way of, saying we only have one room for you guys, like that scene from the Batman movie, Dark Knight, where Joker breaks off the pull stick and says, like, they only have one room left into here for employment. Boom. You guys figure it out. I wonder if it's one of those, because it's not like Top Rank hasn't done that before, So,
No.
Great fight, though, that's being made. Hopefully, it does happen after Casino can come back from this COVID-19. What are we going to say?
No, I was just going to say that Gabe Flores Jr. showed himself to be a very skillful fighter. I often kind of see him doing almost a Mayweather impression in his fights at times, with the guard that he can kind of employ. And you're absolutely right. Andrew Casio would have been a much bigger, more accomplished opponent than anyone I can see on Shakur Stevenson's record. I mean,
it makes you wonder. And like Jesus just said in the chat room, it's like really, honestly, it's sink or swim, and that's exactly what the analogy that I was trying to think up here in my head. I got so much shit in there, I gotta empty it out, like clean, delete like the computer. I just got too much stuff in file and stuff. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's sink or swim, and that's what I was saying. Top Rank is known for doing things like that, and rightfully so. I mean, they should. I just wonder when they're going to do that with Shakur Stevenson. I mean, obviously they're looking at he's an Olympian, and they are kind of grooming him to be the next top-ranked star. I just wonder, okay, but when? Like, you got to put a name up there for him to start getting up there.
I think what their plan is to have him face off against the winner of the Frampton, the Frampton fight. At 130, I think that's their plan, right? I think
it is. But I mean, is Frampton the name that gets you closer being a star? No, right?
No, it isn't. But they're playing this game where they're getting somebody a title and they're not really going after the top guy in the division. So, I mean, they say that Shakur Stevenson's a former world champion, right? Because he won the WBO featherweight title, for what that's worth. But let's be frank. I mean, he won a vacant version of the title and he beat Joet Gonzalez, who I don't consider to be a championship caliber opponent. So I kind of find it tough to say that he was like a legit world champion at 126 and now he's moving up to 130 because of that WBO rule. He actually can demand a shot against a champion, much like Usyk has done with Joshua, and maybe he'll get a title that way. But if I had the controls of boxing and what's going on with Top Rank and obviously ESPN, I would want to see Shakur Stevenson against Gabe Flores Jr. I think that would be a great fight.
Well, I tell you what, okay, getting closer in names, that would make you a star. Shakur Stevenson, what we were mentioning a little earlier, Chango, Andrew, I don't think that would be a name that gets you closer being a star for Gabe Flores Jr. if he was to pass this test. But it gets you closer to the respect from boxing fans. And I think that's what Shakur needs. Shakur Stevenson needs a fight where he fights somebody where we gain that respect. Forget the star. Because you know what? A lot of fighters and promoters are trying to get fighters, in my opinion, from one spot to the high point of their career immediately. Like, there's some rush period. And we've been seeing that for the past, 15 to 20 years. There's like a rush period. There's somebody, like the promoters are trying to find somebody to fill in the shoes of Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather. Like, there's really no development. And I like what Nato put up there. He said, and I'll put it back up here really quick. He said, maybe Top Rank is fed up with the lack of development by the father of Gabe. You know what? Maybe so, but that should be on Top Rank because here's the thing. Golden Boy had signed Frankie Gomez, who was 17 years old, and then Top Rank had signed Jose Benavides Jr., who was 17 at the time. Okay, and here's the thing with me. What I've always said is that you're playing with fire when you're working with kids that are very young, and especially the fact because there's not that man development yet. Okay, they're not given the time. These kids decided to opt out, and not go to the Olympics, and for good reasons too. Okay, but when you sign them on, you got to know there's got to be some, not just muscle development, but kind of brain development. These are kids. And kids want to be kids, and immediately turning them pro. You got to wonder how many of them want to be pro. I remember interviewing Frankie Gomez when he signed with Golden Boy, and it was a great opportunity to interview that young man because it was a day of a signing and the milk car. The one thing that stood out when I was asking him questions, I asked him, how much of this was a dream for you to turn pro? And he said to me, it wasn't my dream, it was my parents' dream.
Yeah. And, we see it, and fathers are oftentimes even conscious about it. When we were interviewing Teofimo Sr. Last Tuesday on Hispanics Causing Panic.
Great interview, by the way. Great interview. Enjoyed it.
Thank you. He made a point of mentioning the fact that he isn't living vicariously through his son, which to me is kind of a way of saying you're almost admitting that you are, because why else would you even say it? And Teo Jr.'s even made kind of reference to that kind of thing in the past. But in terms of the development of these guys, look, I don't think Gabe Flores Jr. is ready for the Valdez or Burchelt winner, Jesus. I think that would be a great fight for either of those two guys. I don't think Flores is ready for those two guys right now. I honestly don't even think Shakur is ready for the winner of that fight, which is why I think they're putting him into the lane of Jamel Herring and Carl Frampton, because Carl Frampton's best years were many years ago at 122. Right. I don't think he's top tier at 130. And I've actually seen Jamel Herring fight a few times here in New York City, and there wasn't really a single time where I was actually really, impressed by him. He's like a workman-like fighter. I'm not saying he's not talented. He obviously is, but I don't see him as a guy that's going to really beat a top-tier guy in his prime fighting in a weight class, which I think a Burchelt is. So it's a good division. I would have been very interested to see what Andrew Cancio would have done with Gabe Flores Jr. It's one of those kind of crossroad fights I was very much looking forward to. But, COVID got to it before we did.
Definitely did. And Jesus says Shakur versus the winners of Burchelt and Valdez. Yeah, absolutely. That to me, which should be the next step, not Frampton. And like I said, if you're looking for the respect, forget about reaching the star, okay, of being in the same light of Canelo, even like Tyson Fury, of those guys, okay? There's a work process to get there. There's a ladder that you're supposed to climb before you get there, and that ladder has to do with a lot of the respect of boxing fans. Because listen, as much as we need casual boxing fans, because they are the bloodline of boxing pay-per-views, okay, they will come out and buy for it. They will buy it. But a lot of times, the hardcore fans are the one they ask if it's a good fight. If you know one of those guys, if you're able to vouch for one of those guys on that card, 99% of the time the casual fan will buy it or pay attention. And that's the thing with Shakur. I don't think he fully got the respect that he needs at this moment to pursue on being called a future superstar, because he hasn't got the respect in that ring or outside the ring with the hardcore fans here. What were you going to say, Milko?
No, I agree. But the reason he hasn't received the respect is because he hasn't fucking fought anybody that would give him that respect that, would be bestowed upon him by the hardcore fans. I'm sorry, but going the distance and winning a unanimous decision against Toka Kalkreuth is not the type of fight or fighter that gives you the accolades that, people who are really big fans of Shakur Stevenson, and I like Shakur Stevenson. I've seen him fight live a few times, but I just cannot put him in the same category of a Miguel Burchelt right now. I just can't.
If he outboxes Miguel Burchelt, I mean, you have to give him that. If he can do what he did to the other kid in his previous fight, then you have to. Then that to me is the lead up of becoming something greater, because he gains the respect, because he actually gets a dangerous fighter, and is he able to shut him out, or he pulls really deep from the bottom pit of his stomach.
I agree with you, David, but the funny thing is, El Alacran is not coming out of their mouths. They're not talking about him. They're talking about the winner again of Frampton. Right. They're not talking about Miguel Burchelt, and I think there's a reason for that.
There you go.
There's a reason they're going after Herring and Frampton and not Miguel Burchelt.
Well, I think what it is, the reason they're going after Frampton is, just be honest, there is still a development from Shakur. Top rank is dumb. They're not going to rush him in. See, they're rushing him in your head, but making you believe that this is the future. Okay, but if they really believe that, they would already put him in the way they did with Lomachenko. You know, Lomachenko putting him in right away, or like Lopez. Okay, I think in some way they know that there's still a development with Shakur, and I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. I think
I don't think there's anything wrong with that
right,
either.
you know,
but I'm not the one, David, that's putting him on all kind of pound for pound list and talking about him as the most talented fighter in the world, like Tim Bradley is.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. Philly, yeah, brother, call in, man. The phone lines are working this time. We tested them out in the beginning before we did the show. Let's call in, brother.
And again, another guy that I don't hear a lot of people talking about at 130 is JoJo Diaz. Let's not forget about JoJo, man.
Well, JoJo's talking about Tevin Farmer again, hoping he can, shut him up in a rematch. If that rematch comes into fruition and stuff. So, but you're absolutely right. JoJo Diaz is another guy that they're not talking about, And I think it just goes back to show you that Top Rank understands what they have. They got to develop them very carefully, okay? They're putting him on the big stage. He's headlining, but the truth is that there's still so much development with this kid that Top Rank is going to protect him as much as they can. I could be wrong. But what I'm seeing, though, is they're protecting the kid for the moment.
Last thing I want to ask all of our community here that's in the chat. How many of you actually think that Stevenson is more exciting than Rigo? Because all I heard from Top Rank when Rigo was out was that Rigo's boring, Rigo's unpromotable, Rigo's this, Rigo's that. And I don't know, call me crazy, but to me, Rigo's a lot more exciting than Stevenson ever was, even at 39 years old.
I had brought this up, I think, on our roundtable of what I thought, and I definitely thought that Rigo was more exciting. He's got the punching power. He took out a lot of the guys, but let's see. Outlaw says it's time for Gabriel Flores to get a new trainer. He's not progressing as a fighter anymore. I don't think he is, Outlaw, to tell you the truth. I don't think we're not going to see. Go ahead. I don't think we're going to see any progression yet until he develops in his man strength. I think that what you see is what you're going to get at the moment because he's still a very youthful guy. He's a young kid. He hasn't moved into 22, 20. I don't think he has. I could be wrong, but I still don't think he's going to get his man straight until he's 23, 24. Then we'll find out. Does he carry the man straight or he doesn't? He may be who he is right now at the moment of what we're seeing. But anyways, who do we got on the line, brother?
Am I on?
Yeah, you're on. You're live.
Oh, finally.
Yeah, we got it sorted out. We got it sorted out, brother. Is that Philly Irish?
Yes, it is.
Thank you for calling in, my man. Thank you for calling in and being patient with us as we sorted all that out.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, I just figured, like Dave told me that you guys were on, so I might as well jump in and see what you guys are talking about and everything. But the deal with Shakur Stevenson, this is what I always thought about Shakur Stevenson. When someone talks about him, I get my pillow and I get my blanket and I get it ready because every time I feel tired,
I got to agree with you, man. I got to agree with you.
Like, it's a shame he hasn't fought anybody that can actually fight yet. And the thing is, with them saying that they want to protect him, the kid has 20 fights under his belt already. Almost 20 fights, if not. You got to put him up against somebody eventually because there's going to be the big fights that he could be put in. Those fighters are going to wind up moving up in weight eventually. Right. And you're going to be missing out on those fights. Like Frampton, that could be a great fight for him. Jamal Herring could be a great fight for him. But if they're talking about putting him up against Lomachenko, I think Lomachenko will embarrass him. If you look at when Lomachenko fought Gary Russell arguably the fastest hands in boxing.
Right.
Lomachenko, in my opinion, did dominate Gary Russell Jr. In my opinion, I think he won every round off Gary Russell Jr. He made Gary Russell look average that night. And that's when people looked at Lomachenko and say, this guy's a serious threat to somebody that can really be a world champion soon. And you see that they match him up with Lomachenko. I think Lomachenko is going to easily beat Shakur Stevenson. And until he fights a name, some type of a name or some type of a stepping stone that gives people problems, nobody's going to even care about Shakur Stevenson. All he's going to do is going to be a fighter that puts everybody to sleep in the chairs or at home.
Or in the audience at the Madison Square Garden where I fell asleep pretty much. I mean,
that too.
His last fight, I keep saying it. I mean, it put me and wifey to sleep. You know, and it was so interesting because it was the fight before it was so exciting. And I'm talking about the Nakatani fight that he came back.
Right.
Yeah, with Verdejo, that he came back and won. It was a very exciting fight. And then before that, there was the Berlanga fight. And then they closed us out with a snooze fest.
Here's the problem.
Main eventing this kid. Like, the thing is, I understand how you need to promote the kid and everything, but it's on to a point that you need to give this kid a name. You have to have this kid fight somebody now, because you guys are promoting him, you're hyping him up and everything, and every time you put somebody in front of him that can't fight, they're gonna say a hardcore boxing fan will say, he didn't impress me at all. He actually put me to sleep. Like, casual fans can't even turn on to him. And that's the problem. Like, when you see a casual fan, like, when you're saying that, oh, we need casual fans, yeah, we do need casual fans. Like,
right.
I'll tell you the truth, guy's name sounds funny, that casual fan's going to turn in and watch that guy because he has a funny name. Like, I tell you, yeah, remember the fight of Lucian Bute?
Of course, out of Montreal. My
brother you can credit my brother maybe as a casual boxing fan, probably watches every once in a blue moon. Mm-hmm. You want to know what my brother in the watch Lucian Bute fight? His name, Bute. That's what made him want to watch that fight. And then after he saw Lucian Bute, the way he fought and everything, he didn't miss a fight at all, Lucian Bute. Even watched the fight where when he knocked out Edison Miranda.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, but Bute was actually a really good fighter.
Oh, he was really good.
What happened to him is the fans were so upset with the controversy at the end of that Andrade fight. I'm sure you remember this day.
Oh yeah.
That they all turned on him.
But it wasn't even him. It was the ref.
It
was the ref that did a terrible job that night.
And the thing is, he was pretty much dominating the majority of that fight until the very last round, which is why that round was so exciting. But it's like that fight was like a heel turn, except he didn't actually start the heel turn. It was like the referee did it. It was always
Like, Like, here's what I thought. Like, yeah, I remember them saying that before he lost to Carl Foch in England. He was probably one of the fighters that are up next to fight Bernard Hopkins, because there was talks of him fighting Bernard Hopkins at that time before he got knocked out by Foch.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, that was one fight that Ward had dropped the ball, because it was supposed to be Ward and Bute, and Foch was the one that took the assignment. You know, so I know that Ward was kicking himself in the ass for not taking Bute at the time, because Bute was ready for the taking.
He was, and another Montreal fighter, and I got to big up Montreal. It's a great city. People should visit it, but it's also a great fight town. Adonis Stevenson, when he was at 175, was his promoter, Yvonne Michel at the time, was offering Ward a 2-fight deal where he'd go down to 168, and then in the rematch, Ward would come up to 175.
Right.
And or it might have been vice versa, but it was one of the two. And Ward didn't end up taking the fight. But yeah, that's a great point, Philly. It's honestly, it's a reason a lot of people got into Zab Judah. And it's also a reason that I kind of latched on to Kostya Tszyu very early on. He just had a cool sounding name, Kostya Tszyu. And then you saw him fight, and your interest was matched by kind of his performance in the ring. And I was hooked from that point on. You know, and now I'm a huge fan of his son.
Oh, yeah, I saw him fight Jeff Horn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everything. He's going to be a champion soon. I think Tim Tszyu going to be a champion soon. It depends who's going to give him that opportunity at a title, but I believe he's going to be a champion real soon.
I think they're looking to make him a champion this year. They're going to go after a definite title and stuff. All right, brother. Hey, man, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it, bro.
Absolutely, Philly.
Thanks for calling.
Call again, man. Call again.
All right, bye.
All right, take care.
You know, an ending with Shakur Stevenson, which, you know, Nato put out there, and this is absolutely right. He had said Shakur's last ESPN card was excellent ratings. That's a positive. It is a positive, okay? It is a positive. Anytime you put it on ESPN, because ESPN is in most homes than anything else, okay? That's a major positive, okay? And that's the major positive that he has by having top rank. You know, the thing that surprises me about Timothy Bradley, who's been riding this wagon from the very beginning, back when Andre Ward was.
Hold up, Dave. Is it? Sorry, the wine is coming through me. Is it a wagon that he's riding, or is it something else? And I'm just.
I don't know, and I don't want to find out if it is, man. I definitely don't want to find out. But you know, the thing that surprised me with Timothy Bradley is here's Tim, who was a road warrior who didn't have the punching power to really capture the respect of boxing fans, okay? He actually had to do it the traditional way, which acts his way through the rankings, okay, to get that respect. And the way he got that respect was by fighting anybody that was available and anybody that was willing to step up with him, okay? That was Timothy Bradley's resume. What I find kind of crazy is you have Timothy Bradley cheerleading a guy that hasn't done any of that and really kind of resembles Bradley's punching power, which is not visible. It's not there yet. So I look at Tim and go like, Tim, we kind of see your agenda here, okay? And you know, him dropping, Shakur dropping Andre Ward, and the big mystery is why he dropped Ward. I was looking at it the other day and I was scratching my head and I'm like, he dropped him because Andre Ward didn't tell him the truth about the offering about Ed Hearn and Eddie Hearns and Warrington at the time. You know, Shakur was over mouthing off on Twitter about nobody sent me a purse bid, nobody's sent me an offer, blah blah blah. And Ed's like, yeah, we did. And then Ward goes on and says, well, you know, what you thought is good is not necessarily good for everybody. But Eddie was like, well, but your guys over here saying that we never sent an offer in. We did. And that was, I think, was the light bulb that turned on for Shakur Stevenson when he was like, these guys supposed to work for me. Why am I not being told this? And now I look like a complete idiot on social media because, you know, as I know, as everybody knows, social media holds receipts. It
does. And he ended up firing Andre Ward.
Yes. He fired him right after.
They parted ways.
Yep.
So, yeah, phone lines are open, guys. 347-460-1773. Once again, that's 347-460-1773.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to us. And remember, we're here every Monday at 5 p.m. We just couldn't do it last week, man, because of the new year. I had so much stuff backed up. A lot of my dealerships were closed. Everybody was like trying to stay home with their families. So when they opened up after the new year, everything was in a rush. Everything was an emergency. So I just couldn't pull away to get back onto my favorite place to be, my serenity place that I come to, which is here on Leaving the Ring to talk boxing with you guys. Let's move on, man. Let's go immediately. First off, let's go with last year, which was potentially, hopefully, was going to be fight of the year between Takana and Ioka, which it didn't. I got to admit, it didn't get fight of the year, but man, it just made my New Year's Eve very exciting. I look forward to it. It was a great fight between two very skilled technicians. Amilcar, give me your take about this. And guys in the chat room, tell us if you guys got up early in the morning like I did, which was at 1 a.m. I think we got a call, right, before we get into talking about this?
Yeah, we do, but caller, if you could just stay on hold with us for a while, for a couple minutes. I'm just going to give my run through of this fight, and then we'll bring you right on.
Yeah, just stay on hold real quick. So go ahead, give me your take.
Yeah, a Tanaka fight. We were all really looking forward to it. We're all moving around trying to find a stream, a legal stream. Then we thought we found one, and David did, and then I ended up having to do something else. long story short, I'm up at 4 a.m. I'm watching this fight, and I had a great time. And Dave, you called it. I mean, the skill, I would also say the experience, but yes, the skill and experience of Ioka proved to win the day. You could see that Tanaka was quick, twitchy. You could see that he was powerful. You could see that he was fast, that he was quick, that he had tremendous confidence. But Ioka figured him out. He dissected him. He figured out his openings, and he just knew at a certain point that left hook was money. And once he started to land it, the knockdown started to happen. Tanaka did not know what to do, and it ended with a great knockout. And I did an upload very early on my channel where I talked about the great referee work that day. We didn't see the referee literally until he had to come in and prevented Tanaka from hitting the floor. You know, he held him up. Great performance. Wasn't fight of the year. Was one of the best fights of the year, I'd say. Not fight of the year, but one of the best breakout performances. And you know that to be true because Ioka actually ended up cracking the Ring Magazine top 10 pound for pound. And this is a guy who was Japan's first ever 4-weight world champion. All right. Super high level dude. Both his losses were controversial, including the most recent one against who was against the Filipino fighter? His name is escaping me, and I'm embarrassed that it is. But this is what happens when you're on the East Coast, Dave, and it gets late after a long day. But yeah, it was a great performance, man. And I thought it was awesome.
You know, the one thing that Tikana had brought that I didn't think he would was a jab. He came out jabbing. I thought he was taking the early rounds. And that was very impressive. You know, the loss is obviously, he lost to one of the greats. Let's just be honest, okay? He lost to one of the top fighters in that division. There's no shame in that. But what Tanaka showed me with losing this fight is that, you know what? This shouldn't stop him to reaching his goal, okay? He brought something where he understood he needed a jab. He needed to be a boxer in this fight and not be reckless. But the youth and the confidence took over. He became very comfortable because he looked stronger. He definitely looked stronger, and he was definitely pushing back Ioka when he did land those big shots, okay? He had Ioka a few times kind of like puzzled and kind of a bit worried off of that punching power. But the experience kicked in, and it definitely shined on that night because, you know, Ioka is one of those guys that he's going to weather the storm. Okay, he's gonna weather what you're doing, and he's gonna make these very slight adjustments, and that's what he did. It was a great fight. Go ahead and bring on our caller here. Let's talk some boxing here.
Absolutely, caller. Hop on in with us. Who's there?
What's good, y'all? What's good?
We good? Who's calling?
This is Clay Stevenson.
Oh,
hey, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Hey, Clay. Thanks for calling in.
What's good, man? Yeah, I've been talking to Dave for a long time on Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah, my fault is. Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah.
What's your name? Yeah.
Emil.
Milcar?
Yeah, Milcar. There you go.
Yeah. Man, you guys kind of hard on Shakur Stevenson, I see. I'm not a big noodle.
Here's my thing. I'm always critical about guys who kind of win bullshit world titles and present themselves as world champions, but then don't fight the best. And maybe I shouldn't blame Shakur for that. It's kind of the nature.
That. I wouldn't blame Shakur for that.
It's what Top Rank does. It's what especially Top Rank, right? I mean. But I guess I kind of doubled down on it when Tim Bradley's talking about how he's the best fight, like the most skilled fighter in the world and pound for pound #1. I mean, I just don't understand. Again, not his fault. Not his fault.
Yeah, Tim Bradley, company man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't pay no attention to Tim or Andre. I mean, I respect them as like great fighters, but when as far as the commentating and so forth. They in-house guys, so you take it with a bucket of salt.
What do you think about him, Clay? Let me ask you. What do you think about Shakur Stevenson? Do you think that between all that hype when it clears that this kid could possibly be what they are describing to us at this moment?
I think he's a talented fighter. I really do. I think he's a great talent. You know, he's an Olympic silver medalist, whatever. But my biggest question so far is, will he can he take a punch? I mean, with when he faces a big punching guy, how will he survive? Because I'm telling you, that can be a separator or like a decider when guys fight like the big time opponents and so forth. I mean, because skills is one thing, but hey, you need that power to, like, you know, they cheat guys off of you sometimes.
Right. You know, I mean, he's got great footwork. There's, you know, here's the thing. Everything that we see of the kid, there's no question he's got talent. He's got good footwork, good hand speed. He puts combinations together. He got everything. But it's against guys. It's against guys. But see, here's the thing. It's against guys that he should be looking good against and should be able to do that. You know what I mean? And my question, my thing is that what I've witnessed of him is that he should actually, in my opinion, he should be able to mow through these guys where he could stop them. Because I don't think they have a chance of landing anything big on him or anything like that. So that's my first question about him is the lack of killer instinct, in my opinion. The power there obviously is what we're still questioning, and his chin. You know, and I think, like I said, I'm very surprised with, like, Timothy Bradley, which, you know, I mean, if you follow me and listen to me, I've always been a big, huge Timothy Bradley fan. And I just sit there and, like,
same. Yeah. Super nice guy in person, too.
Oh, yeah. And I always go, like, Tim, I would think that you would be asking these questions because you did not have the easy road to get where you're at. You know, like, you should know this already, that this kid's got to earn the respect of fight fans before we give him this patio, this freaking, what's the word I'm looking for?
Dude, let me tell you how tough Tim Bradley is.
Yeah.
Tim Bradley had to go all the way to England and fight Junior Witter to win his first title. Junior Witter was a very tricky boxer, super high skilled, and was a guy that Floyd didn't want to fight. And that's who Tim Bradley went to fight in England to win his first world title. So he did not have the quote-unquote top-ranked diet, which I agree, Outlaw. A lot of these top-ranked prospects are fed. So I would agree with Dave. It's like you'd expect him to be a bit more critical. But Tim, like many of us, when you become a fan of somebody, you kind of get a little over-exuberant. But guess what? I'm not the one who's on the ESPN. Like, if I were... He's got to maintain a little bit more subjectivity, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, Tim Bradley, like I said, he's one like he was like a favorite of mine, and like you say, he didn't have the easy road. He was a blue collar fighter through and through.
Right.
One reason that was a big appeal for me for Tim.
Yeah, you know, like let's say the Paul Williams of the world, Timothy Bradley, Glenn Johnson, those guys were special because there was nothing was handed to them. They had to literally work for what they received, you know? And that's all I'm asking for. Like, so I get, you know what's funny, that round table that we did a while back, same thing. A lot of folks are like, dude, why are you hating on Shakur so bad? And I'm like, I'm not. And for some folks were actually going, he's an American fighter, Dave. You're an American. You should be, you know, enjoy that this guy's getting, you know, a headline. I'm like, well, that's another reason why I'm pretty tough on him. Because the fact is that when I think about American fighters like Timothy Bradley or Paul Williams, these guys had to literally win the respect of, like, Mexican and Puerto Ricans and UK fans. They won the respect by fighting the Who's. Shakur Stevenson at this moment hasn't won that respect across the plane. The landscape of boxing, I just don't think he's got that yet.
Yeah, to me personally, like when it comes to all the like the young guns, whatever, I'm more of a Virgil fan, Ennis fan, even Ryan Garcia fan over Shakur Stevens. That's just my personal taste.
Bro, I'm right there with you, man. I'm a much bigger fan of all those guys.
I mean, like I said, now Ryan Garcia, he needs some season and development. But like I said, I prefer over from an eyeball's point of view over Stevens.
Yeah, but you know what I like about Ryan? Ryan is calling out Tank Davis, right?
He's really riding that.
I haven't heard your core call out, Tank. Maybe I missed that one. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I actually know what Secure on Twitter. He's called out a lot of people.
Yeah, he does. You're right.
He called out everybody on Twitter. So but like I said, I take everything with a bucket of salt with these young guys, man.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, it's all about money. Dollars and cents.
Yep, I agree.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't, But you know what? I don't have a problem dishing out my hard-earned blue-collar money. But, man, you know what? I'd like to see a little bit of foreplay before I give it up. You know what I mean? I want to see a little something,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because like I said, I put up a tweet last week. I said, out of the young guns, who would you pay to see out of the the five, Ryan, Virgil, whatever? I just want to see how fans responded. A lot of people respond. They say they like to see Shakur as their number one fight out of the top five, young fighters out there now, which is interesting.
Right.
Very interesting.
No, it's interesting. And this is the power. This is the power of ESPN because he's getting in more homes than a lot of other fighters. Yeah. The platform makes a huge difference. Clay, thanks for calling in, brother. We got to get going. We got more stuff here to talk about, man. But stay on.
Absolutely.
And keep tuning in.
Please like and subscribe, and please support all the channels in the Leave It in the Ring network here.
I already do.
There you go. Going back with Ioka, man, what's a good call? Thanks, Clay, man. We've been following each other for quite some time. It's really good to see that some of the Twitter people are coming over and tuning in and listening, talking some boxing, because a lot of folks on Twitter, man, bro, they got some real pure knowledge. They're real hardcore boxing fans, and it's just, I enjoy it. It's one of the best things to do, man, because you get educated with a lot of the fans as well, because they, like I said, they definitely they watch the sport as close as we do. Like when you talk about like the DAZN commentators, I feel a lot of fans pains that are hardcore boxing fans that watch a lot of the, the undercards to like oversee cards, like I do and like you do, Emil Carr, like everybody in the chat room, anybody that tunes in to Leave It in the Ring, but then you listen to guys like Chris Mannix or Brian Kennedy, and you know that they don't even watch this. They don't even watch this. They're like 2 weeks out before they even watch tape on the fighter that they're going to speak about, and sometimes you cringe. You cringe and all that because, like, I didn't hear anything from DAZN talking about Ioka and Tanaka at all, and they were pumping up the promo for Gonzalez and Estrada, but there was no mention of Ioka at all about this great fight between those two.
My man, Hermano, I totally agree with you, bro, because the other thing too is DAZN is actually invested in this fucking weight class.
Very invested. Very invested. Mm-hmm.
Right there, Eddie's talking about obviously the rematch with Estrada and Chocolatito. Yeah. Who better for the winner of that to face than Ioka? Or it could have been Tanaka had he won the fight. That fight should have been on DAZN. It should have been on ESPN. It should have been on DAZN. We shouldn't have had to be scrambling to figure out how to pay a Japanese TV service or expats to log in on our laptops to watch it.
They're probably look. I think what they're probably thinking. Okay, and by no chance I know what's in their head. For me to it would require for me to be inside their head to know what they're doing. Okay, and obviously they understand the marketing and the business part way better than we do. Okay. But this is where my head's at with this, okay? And I'm thinking they're looking at Ioka and Tanaka as, why invest in this when it might be just a one-fight deal, okay? We're looking for the possibility, because like, for instance, Japan is probably not going to buy DAZN when they're having their fighter on a free platform, okay? Which is their free platform. So why would they want to bring them on? They probably won't bring them on until maybe after the Estrada and Gonzalez. And if the winner of those two guys say, hey, in order for us, to be undisputed, we have to fight this kid from Japan, Ioka, which would be a fucking tremendous and great fight, okay? But I think that's where DAZN is looking at. He's already on a platform. It'd probably really be hard to even get that over here on DAZN because of the fact that they're going to have to dish out a lot of money, which they've kind of learned their lesson. So I'm looking at the dollar value, and I'm thinking that's why they didn't end up going that route. But what about it's free to mention him? It's free to build that up because
it's free to mention him. It's free to mention Jerwin Ancajas, who's also a very exciting fighter, you know? So, look, what I'm hoping to see at 115 is Ioka Ancajas, Gonzalez Estrada, and the winners facing each other for an undisputed title. And I would have hoped that DAZN would have put the money behind this to make kind of that tournament happen, you know, 2-round tournament. But they didn't. And the other thing that's interesting to me is that DAZN is actually pretty strong in Japan. Like, they've been in Japan much longer than they've been in the United States. So I just never understood it. I was watching a show today, an upload by my guy out there in the UK that runs Boxing Social. And he had Eddie Hearn on. And Eddie was complaining about the DAZN announcing crew. And the Boxing Social dude was actually saying that he would expect, you know, fights of this magnitude to have a more professional announcing staff. And I couldn't agree more. Now,
I wouldn't say they're not professional. I mean, look, I think they're very professional, but I think that they lack education in the sport. And I'll tell you why. You have to have a passion for this sport. It's a very niche sport. Okay, it's very niche. You know, I mean, you can walk into a room of 50 people, and dude, you'd be lucky to land a real hardcore boxing fan because everybody's gonna talk about the '80s. Like, oh yeah, I was a big, I used to watch Mike Tyson. They seem they can relate to that, but other than that, talking about the current names and the current status of the sport, it's very difficult. You know, so I think we're like Chris Mannix. He's not a really boxing guy. We know that. He's more of a basketball guy. Brian is more of he's just a commentator. He floats around. Sergio Mora, I think Sergio Mora does really good. I know there's some people that don't like him.
But Dave, this is my thing when I say unprofessional. I'm sorry, but if I'm watching a soccer commentary from England or basketball commentary from the United States, I'm not listening to a guy like Chris Mannix banter back and forth and constantly throw insults at Sergio Mora and Mora.
Now that's what's weird. Yeah, I agree with you.
Professional.
Well, you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to mimic.
Professional, bro. That's not professional sportscasting.
No, it isn't. But they're trying to mimic the chemistry of what George Foreman and Larry Merchant had, or Roy Jones. It's not working. No, I agree with you. It isn't working.
Disagreement. This is manufactured, like sophomoric back and forth insults. I don't need to hear that. I'm here to watch boxing. I don't give a fuck about Chris Mannix trying to be funny or anything else.
Right.
You know, it's just comments on the fight. Right?
I agree.
You know?
I agree. And to like bring up certain things that, you know, when you ask your unofficial a question and he answers it and you still want to drag it in to the convo, that's right there. Somebody needs to kind of put them in a hole and say, stop. Okay. You know, but you know, here's one thing that I think they tend to gotten worse on is riding the house fighter. They're no longer like even Sergio Mora. You're no longer calling the fight. You're calling the house fighter, what he does, the greatness he's doing and stuff. You know, like we might as well move into Ryan Garcia's great performance.
I mean, they're riding the house fighter stronger than Seabiscuit at this point.
Oh my God. Yeah, they broke Seabiscuit's back, bro. Okay, they broke Seabiscuit's back.
I mean, Ryan Garcia was doing very well against Luke Campbell, right? But the only one giving any credit to Luke Campbell that entire fight was Sergio Mora. Right. And guess what? It's because he's a former fighter.
Yes, and nobody was calling what Luke was trying to set up, what he was trying to do, which I thought that, you know. I thought that Luke was trying to fit in some tricks, trying to put in his experience. But I think in that first round, when he felt the power of Ryan Garcia, I think that changed everything for him. He seemed really tentative. He seemed like, you know what, he was kind of standoffish. He was looking for the perfect shot rather than working for the shot. And you know what? When he got Ryan hurt, dropped Ryan, he went back into, again, examining what he was doing rather than just attacking and getting the young warrior out. That all should have been mentioned. That all should have been what the strategy was, how the strategy wasn't playing out. But instead, it was glorifying Ryan Garcia for getting back up. And Ryan Garcia this, and it was hot dogging Ryan Garcia the whole way. And you know what? That's just a turnoff, not just for hardcore boxing fans, but for fans across the board, everywhere. People could see that, okay? My son's sitting there watching it, and he only wanted to watch because of Ryan Garcia, but he was like, God damn, these guys really love Ryan Garcia. Do they get a percentage of what Ryan does that? I'm like, no, he doesn't. They don't.
No, they don't. Like, are you a pimp or are you a commentator? I'm confused. And
yeah,
I got two things I'd like to highlight here. Nando, my brother out there, says, don't forget Sword Rungvisai. I agree.
We haven't forgot about him.
This dude, it's almost like he's been punished for beating Chocolatito twice.
Right.
You know? And then Jesus says, Luke doesn't throw enough punches even when he hurt him. I agree. He should have gone for the kill at that point because he was not going to win on the cards in Texas. We know that. So
no, he didn't. You know?
Yeah.
No,
so you're gonna move. Yeah,
Luke
go ahead.
was definitely competitive. Outlaw put out there. Luke was competitive, but was not winning rounds. I only gave Luke the second round, and I thought so too. You know what? I thought I gave him another round. I can't remember what round it was, but I thought he was doing a little bit more. I thought though, look, this is what I thought, and this happens, and this tends to happen with fighters when they've been in the game long enough. They overanalyze what they're doing. And it's like it's in their head what they want to do, but they can't translate it to their hands. Okay, and I saw that with Luke, but I also saw a little bit of like shyness because he felt the power of Ryan Garcia. Okay, he did get hurt more than once in that fight. So I think that made a big play into his plan because his corners were asking him, his cornerman was telling him, you got to let your hands go. You got to stop showing this kid so much respect. But it's very difficult when you got somebody that's just so fast and so strong like Ryan Garcia. But here's this. Reynoso, Eddie Reynoso. A lot of people keep giving a lot of hype about Eddie Reynoso being the trainer of the year and all this stuff. I don't know about you guys, Milcar, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't really see a whole lot of improvement from Ryan Garcia. Might be because the fact that 2 years he had 5 rounds before leading into the Luke Campbell. But I still see there's a lot of stuff there that Ryan Garcia needs to work on. You know, the chin is still very up high. I'm hoping, here's 2 things about that knockdown. I'm hoping it humbled him, but he's got to learn to have a jab, okay? He's got to invest a little bit more on that jab, not just on his power and his speed. A lot of times I didn't see him even set up punches. I seen him just swing to hopefully land something big. Okay, so in my opinion, Eddie's got a lot of work to do with this kid, Ryan Garcia. Take nothing away from his victory. It's definitely, I said this on Twitter and I've said this on the show, if he gets this win and he does it in such a great, fashionable way, you got to give him his props. So his props are right there. But you cannot sit there and say that this kid is already polished and ready to go against any of the elite guys out there. I still think that he's got a lot of work. And you know what? Luke Campbell did expose that you could set him up. You could set him up because Brian is looking to land a big shot. Ryan's not really looking at what you're going to do to him. Until after he got hurt from Luke, look what happened. Eddie Reynoso told him, you got to keep your right hand up. And that's the only thing I have to give him more props about is that Ryan Garcia went out on that the 3rd round picking up that right hand so that Luke couldn't land that overhand again.
I don't always disagree with you, Dave. I very rarely do, but I actually think that Reynoso has done a lot with Garcia. We tend to forget the derision that Garcia was facing after the Carlos Morales fight in 2018 when he won by majority decision. And I mean, it was not looking that great for Ryan Garcia. At that point, people were literally thinking this kid was a hype job, right?
Right.
And to me, that changed at first with the Rodriguez fight, but mostly with the Duno and Fonseca fights. And look, under Reynoso, the guy's 3-0, 3 KOs, right? So there's that. But I do agree he's got a lot of improvements to make. I'd like to see him implement a lot of stuff that Canelo's good at. To me,
that takes years. And you know what? I just don't see him mastering that.
It does take years. Absolutely.
It takes years. And the road that he's on right now, the paved road that he's on right now, I don't think they're going to give him that time. I don't think that's going to happen, you know? And his quest.
I'm specifically talking about head movement and feinting.
Feinting, head movement, tucking his chin, using the jab properly. You know what? Just not swinging for the fences, because none of that's going to work all the time, especially when you get guys that study, guys that are going to watch you and study you Luke Campbell understood that he kept his right hand low. Luke also understood that he kept his chin up high, you know, and he was able to capitalize that. He just wasn't able to finish it. He didn't have the finish in him, you know, and that's where Luke Campbell came short. Whereas somebody else that has the youth and has the determination the way Ryan Garcia does, Ryan could be in a lot of trouble if he doesn't correct that soon. Talking about Tank Davis. Tank Davis is another talent that honestly hasn't stepped over that bar of saying that he's going to be the next big thing, in my opinion, because he's been really capitalizing his career by fighting smaller guys. Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis, in my opinion, okay, and you guys might disagree with me. To me, it's a 50-50 fight. They both bring a lot of flaws. Let's not forget.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
And Gary Russell Jr. was saying it recently that Tank Davis has made his career off beating up on small guys. His only fight, let's not forget, guys, at 135 was against overaged, over the hill, undersized. I could keep going, but Yuriorkis Gamboa.
Here's the thing. Let's look at the lineup here. We got
with a bad Achilles.
Right. Let's look at the lineup. Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, within the young lions, Devin Haney, three guys that are not, in my opinion, are not completely proven. Okay, you know, like Teofimo Lopez is a proven warrior already. Lomachenko is very proven. You know, so when I hear about like Garcia, Davis, and Haley, those guys, in my opinion, are 50-50 among just them three. You know, those three guys right now, let me ask you this. Those three guys right now, do you pick them over Lomachenko if they were to be matched up with them at this moment? Out of those three, how many of those three guys do you think would do what Teofimo Lopez was able to do to Lomachenko?
I don't think any of them would. And I'm going to sound like a scratch record with a lot of Caribbean bias, but I keep bringing up Javier Fortuna.
Yeah.
Javier Fortuna, I'm telling you, man, he's got the southpaw stance, he's got the skills, and he's got punching power. You know, and Samson Lekovic, I think he's from Uruguay. The guy's one of the best talent scouts in boxing. This is the guy that brought Manny Pacquiao to us.
Oh, yes.
This is the guy that brought Sergio Martinez to us. This is the guy that brought us Javier Fortuna. This guy is a good fighter, but he has not had the opportunities or the promotional muscle behind him that a lot of these other fighters have had. But he's good, man. I'm telling you. And I do want to acknowledge something that Jesus said, that Tank beat a tall Pedraza. That's absolutely true. He did.
Right. The sniper.
That was at 130, and I should not have forgotten about that fight because, as I said in the chat, I was actually at that fight. It was at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, and I was right there. So, yeah, great point there, my man.
Yeah, I mean, I think of everything, and I think this is what makes that lightweight division just so stacked and so, you know, great. Is like I said, you have three lions that have to prove they're hungry. You know, taking nothing away from any of these guys, you know, I want to see them make that next step, all right? And I think that next step is like what Ryan Garcia is doing. He's not calling out the two guys right now on top of the hill. He's calling out a guy that's trying to make it to that top of the hill, and Tank Davis. You know, Devin Haney's very talented, but he leaves questions out there. Devin, to me, needs to start asking for these other guys. You know, hopefully we can get Devin Haney back on leaving the ring so we can ask him questions, you know. But I think a ring robin with all these guys, especially with those three guys, you know, I think it's always going to be a 50-50 fight, you know. And then you bring in Lomachenko, Nakatami, you bring in Teofimo Lopez. I mean, bro, we have 3 years of great fights among all these guys.
Yeah, it's one of the deepest divisions and most exciting divisions in the sport. The only issue is whether the politics of boxing will get in the way of some really great fights. You said it, Vasyl Lomachenko. We've got Javier Fortuna. We've got. I'm actually excited about George Gambrossos Jr. I want to see what he's able to do. And
yeah,
you know, obviously Davis and Lopez, you know, Ryan Garcia. We cannot forget about Linares. Dude is still alive. He hasn't retired. Robert Easter's
yeah.
there.
Comey's still there. You know?
Yeah, Comey's still there. For what it's worth, even Verdejo's still around. And Rolando Romero is a tough guy as well. So, I mean, there's so many guys. Even Ivan Mendy, the guy that beat Campbell, is still out there.
I mean, listen here. You got Josh
at 135.
If Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez don't finally meet, okay, at 135 and they move up, they've even made that whole division even more crazier to keep an eye out for. Okay, honestly, that division is like the flyweight, junior flyweight division, okay, leading into the bantamweight. There are so many great fights in those two divisions, okay? Forget about the welterweight division. The welterweight division, at my opinion right now, is stagnant because of Spence and
they will fight each other.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, if Ramirez and Taylor stick around at 130, which is what I hope they do, because you know what? Terrence Crawford's problems should not be Ramirez and Josh Taylor's problems, right?
No.
They shouldn't be compelled to move up to 147 because Terrence Crawford can't find a fight. I would personally love to see the winner of that fight remain undisputed and defend his title once guys like Teofimo and Haney and the others move up in weight.
Exactly.
That's what I would like to see.
Oh, man, you want to talk about just like I said, you got like the next 3-4 years, man, of some really good fights just brewing up. Not just with, like I said, even the heavyweight division. You got some young guns coming. We just had a kid right now. You imagine 2 to 3 years right now with that kid Tristan. If he keeps moving up and Golden Boy slowly develops him and gets him the right fights to build his confidence and help out his skills. And Ronnie Shields, like I said before, is a very underrated trainer. Not a lot of folks give him a lot of applause because I don't know because of what, but Ronnie has developed good fighters. I mean, you know, even Charlos. Look, the way the Charlos twins came out, he only works with one of them, but he was working with both of them. Okay, but when they came out, they didn't honestly get the respect of fans because they were more cuties. But then when they started sitting down on their punches and started blowing out guys, that's when everybody's like, okay, yeah, dude, they got flaws. Give me a fighter that doesn't have a flaw. Just give me a fighter right now.
Absolutely. I mean, he's worked with great fighters. I said earlier on about Arislandi Lara. He also worked out. I mean, he was the trainer of Guillermo Rigondeaux when he was knocking out fools left, right, and center. I mean, the only reason Guillermo left Ronnie was because he wanted to train in Miami, which has a bigger Cuban population, obviously, than Houston, and he wanted to live in Miami. But I mean, he's done great things with like super high level talent.
No, he has. He's got a great eye. He does have a really good eye, you know.
Absolutely. And you want to know something too, Dave? Honestly, I think that Efe Ajagba has regressed since leaving Ronnie Shields. I don't think he's as good anymore.
Well, he has been. Efe Ajagba has been leaving his chin out a little bit more. You know, I mean, there's so many good trainers in boxing. You know that's why I never really jump on the wagon of who's the best trainer of the year and all that. And I know we were supposed to do our our end of the year awards, and I've said this to you. I told you this. I really don't care for it, because everybody does it, so it ends up like being like And I even worked on it. I just didn't bring it up here because I just think there's just so much more to talk about here in the sport, man. But going back with Ryan Garcia, just really quick, I definitely would like to see Ryan Garcia. I mean, look, he made a big bang, a big statement by stopping Luke Campbell. A bigger statement would be him getting in with Tank Davis. It's a 50-50 fight. It really is. And you know what? Pedraza that's a good bar of showing he can fight a taller fighter when he's serious, when he takes the fight serious, okay? Even with Santa Cruz, he did take the fight with Santa Cruz pretty serious, but he was getting caught with so many right hands. But he knew what he had in front of him, which was a much, much smaller guy. Could he withstand the punches that Ryan could land? And is Tank Davis, does he come the way he was sharp, with the quickness and the power the way he did with Pedraza? Not the way he did with Santa Cruz, because the way he looked against Leo Santa Cruz, bro, I would lean more with Ryan Garcia, to tell you the truth. He ate a lot of shots, Tank Davis.
I'm leaning with Garcia, and I'm telling you that Garcia ain't gonna be sitting on the ropes waiting to eat an uppercut like my man was Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz was.
He was winning on the scorecards.
Machismo got in the way because he was fouled, and he really should have taken the break. Instead, he let the referee force him back into the fight. He went to the ropes, and that's never a good place to be against a short, crisp puncher like Tank Davis. And one thing that Ryan Garcia does is he fights well tall. That he really does. He's
too tall.
He fights tall, and
too tall.
He's got a great jab and a great right hand and a great hook. And that's problems for Tank Davis. So the other thing too is he's not going to be able to land an overhand right the way that an overhand left from Luke Campbell. He's not going to be able to match that with an overhand right because he's not as tall as Campbell. But you know what the great thing about this fight is, David? There's a lot of questions, man. And as fans, when we go into a fight where there's a lot of questions, those are the most exciting fights.
They are. I mean, look, I like – this is why I think it's a 50-50 fight. Ryan still holds up his chin very high. Tank would have to work his way in because he's got short arms. But his uppercut, I think, would be the key for Ryan Garcia. When Ryan was fighting Luke Campbell, I tweeted out during the fight, does Ryan not see the body of Luke Campbell? That's one thing that they should go that Ryan and his team should look at. They didn't invest a whole lot to the body. Ryan is a headhunter. In order to be a complete fighter, he's got to do what Canelo does, which is really paint the body to the head. He works every area. He doesn't leave any area untouched, okay? So Ryan's he's got the perfect opportunity to review tape, talk to his trainers about this, and really see that he could have made it an easier and shorter night if he would have invested in that body. The thing with Tank, though, is his size. His size could pose a lot of problems because it's intimidating. He's very wide shoulder, so I tend to believe he's going to take the shots a bit better than what Luke is going to do against, Tank Davis against Ryan Garcia. My question is how does Ryan react to a strong puncher, a heavy puncher like Tank Davis? How does he react when Tank Davis traps him at the rope? Because you know what? There's another thing that I'm seeing with Ryan Garcia. He doesn't have the greatest footwork in the world. He doesn't get himself out of danger immediately because he relies on that speed and that power. You know, so that's why I'm with you right there, all the way, right here, eye to eye on this fight here, Milcar. You know, when you have fights like this where you can dissect both guys' flaws and you sit there and you just kind of play it in your head, it makes to be a great fight. I hope this fight gets signed on. I hope we see it in mid of this year because it's going to be really talked about. I think this fight's going to be phenomenal if these both men can come into an agreement and face each other in the mid-year of this year.
I agree, and I really hope it happens. I think it will do tremendous things for the sport. That's a blockbuster fight. It's going to bring in the casuals. It's going to bring in the hardcore fans. It's going to bring in the general sports fans. It's going to bring in the celebrities. It's going to bring in the YouTubers, the young people, the older people. It's going to bring everybody together.
Oh yeah,
and it's other than. I'm going to go out and just say this, like other than the Fury Joshua fight, which we all hope will happen, I think this is the second biggest fight that could possibly take place in 2021. I really do.
The comparisons that these young fighters are trying to align themselves with, like Devin Haney tweeting out, he's like Floyd Mayweather, and I don't think I've seen Ryan Garcia tweeting out he's like De La Hoya, but I know that Golden Boy is trying to mold him as the next Golden Boy. Okay, fighting Tank Davis, that is really honestly the route that you do because if he could beat Tank Davis, who is a big draw in his home state, okay, that also brings kind of the hip hop, like Zab Judah. You know what I mean? Where Zab brought that hip hop feel, that inner city kid, okay, the gritty. Where Ryan has some of that fakeness, man. Like the whole the Bible. I get the Bible and I read the Bible and all that. He's got that goody boy. That Cobra Kai part of him that
Daniel LaRusso.
The Daniel LaRusso. There you go. He's got that feel.
He's a Daniel LaRusso of boxing.
Yeah,
which a lot of people love to hate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't like the hypocritical Bible thumpers. I mean?
I don't. I really don't. So with Tank, you want to talk about two spectrums of personalities that are across from different parts of the world. Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia are perfect because Devin Haney.
I've never heard Tank reference the Bible, the Quran, the Torah.
No, he's embraced the hip hop culture. He's embraced that. He's embraced all the bad boy image. If you look at Tank Davis, he doesn't look like a fighter. He looks like a rapping superstar. He's got that written all over him. Okay, so that there versus the pretty boy, the clean cut kid that got this corny tattoo on him because he wants to kind of dirty up the image a little bit. Which is kind of difficult to do, man, because you're not from the streets. Let's be honest. You're not from the streets, okay? Tank Davis is, I like this, and I think this is a great fight. This fight should happen, but it goes down to the promoters. What could they agree on? Where does it land on? Because in all honesty, this fight kind of deserves a little bit of a pay-per-view gate. And I don't think this fight's going to happen if the gates are not open. If you can't have an audience to attend, this fight is going to be long far before we even see this happen.
No, you're right. So let's hope the vaccine happens. Because this would be a big ticket seller, man. Whether it's in the DC area, whether it's in Staples Center, whether it's in Vegas. I don't think it would happen in New York. I'm a little bit biased here. I hope it would happen here, but Texas,
it goes Vegas. It goes Vegas. It's got to go Vegas. If everything opens up.
It's a big fight wherever it happens.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like you said, it brings out the stars, Yeah,
Shushan Boxing says Ryan is a guy that would have been on the Wheaties box in the 1980s. Yeah, absolutely.
Where he really honestly, Ryan's face should end up on the condom box. Kid.
Oh, man. You sounding like Teofimo Jr. right now.
Oh, man. I think we're all talked out here for the Leaving the Ring segment. Oh, well, there is one thing that I did. I got a lot of Leave It a Ring emails talking about like an interview that just passed. First off, it was G-Funk that actually sent me the interview. I'll be honest with you guys, and I said this a lot of times. It's really rare that I listen to anybody's podcast. Okay, I don't know why. I just really don't. I've always been like that, you know. Unless you send it to me, I'll listen to whatever it is. But like even like YouTubers and stuff, it's pretty difficult. Yeah, we talked about that earlier, Jesus. But this one here, it just raised a lot about racism. Okay, and I've seen a lot of people going on YouTube and on Twitter, social media, talking about racism.
Hot topic, Dave. Okay. Hot topic.
It is a hot topic. It's a very hot topic. But, you know, my answer to a lot of folks that were sending in emails about this, asking me what my thoughts were about that interview with the barbershop kid, having Sugar Hill on and allowing his fans to come on through the platform and you know, pretty much threatening the guy. And what my thoughts were about that, I don't have any thoughts about that. That's his platform. If that's what he wants to do, that's what he's going to do. You know what I mean? We're not the police, the internet police to stop people, okay? But, you know, I see a lot of the division. Like, I see that there's a lot of black fans that are saying that, you know, Hispanic fans need to pay homage to them and then saying to the fans, like the fans, not the fighters, the fans, and vice versa, the Latinos, you know, there was another video that was kind of being thrown around that Mexicans call black fighters monkeys and all this stuff, and so some of the emails were like, what do you think about the racism now in boxing? And I'm like, well, first off, boxing was born off of racism. If you really have never watched the sport or read history of the sport, boxing comes from a very dark place. Promoters know this. They know how to pit nationalities, cultures, religion against each other because it sells. If it bothers you, the racism in the sport, this is probably not the sport for you. You probably shouldn't watch it, okay? You know, I don't let it get to me. I don't like getting involved in the whole, like, you know, well, this is a black guy and this is a brown guy, blah, 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 because you know what? The system has actually, they're pitting on that. You know, they bet on that. They're hoping that you guys fall into this whole like, oh, I'm a black guy, so I got to follow this guy. I can't like white fighters. I can't like Mexican fighters. And the same thing, Mexican fighters. I can't like Puerto Ricans, and I can't like black guys. They're hoping that you buy into that because it sells tickets.
There's a lot of ignorance in the country, in the world, and unfortunately, there's a lot of ignorance in amongst the boxing fandom.
Yes.
I'll give you a quick story. I was at the Radio City Music Hall. Anyone who listens to the show knows I'm a huge fan of Rigo. I was there with my sister and my cousin, and I after the fight, I got into an argument with an African-American gentleman who was asking me why I was going for Rigo, and I was like, I like Rigo. He's a good boxer.
Right.
And he was like, well, you know, I like Duenez, and this is terrible, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know why you like Rigo. And I mean, you're black. Rigo's not even black. He's Cuban. And I was like, what? Like, I was like, first of all, Rigo is Cuban. This is true. But Rigo's also black. I mean,
right.
Anyone who knows Rigo knows he's black. And he said, no, he's not black because he speaks Spanish and he doesn't even speak English. I was like, bro, the majority of Africa doesn't speak English. Are you saying that because he doesn't speak English, he can't be black? I mean, look, Tito Trinidad was black. He's also Hispanic. Panama Lewis, the infamous trainer,
right,
of Resto, was Panamanian. That's his nationality. His race was black. He speaks Spanish, so he's Hispanic. There's just so much ignorance, man, and it gets me really upset. It's like Latinos know that, you know, Latinos can be white Latinos like Ricky Martin. They could be even Asian Latinos like Alberto Fujimori, the former president of Peru. Or they can be black Latinos like Celia Cruz or Roberto Clemente. The problem, honestly, is not within the Latino community. I'm just going to be honest with you. We know more about race because we come from a very multicultural, multiracial part of the world, where there are black people, indigenous people, European people, Asian people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So the fact that, unfortunately, I'm going to say this, a lot of African Americans are throwing so much shade at Latinos because they see them as so different, which in reality, there's more in common than there is of difference.
Well, there's a pride thing. Look, I don't want to defend anybody that brings in racism, okay? But I understand what a lot of these kids are coming from, okay? Look, I was born and raised in an all Chicano community. Didn't see blacks, didn't see whites. I didn't see that until I got older, okay? Until I started hitting like high school, when they started the segregation again in the inner cities. They wanted more Latinos to intermingle with the whites and the blacks, okay? So there's a pride thing that you're raised with, you know. And Renato made a great point. Boxing doesn't make races. It doesn't create racism, okay? It's really in your community, okay? And it's a pride thing. When you see, like if you're a Mexican, like my brother Mike, I remember when Roy Jones was going for the title, the heavyweight title against the weakest elite in the heavyweight division.
John Ruiz.
And my Uncle Mario at the time too. We're here. Everybody was excited. We're watching pay-per-view. And I was going for the obvious, which was Roy Jones Jr., because I knew that John Ruiz, the quiet man, was not going to get the job done.
No, he was not.
And I remember my uncles and my cousins there like, dude, what, you're going to go for Roy Jones? Are you serious? Why would you not root for the Mexican guy? And I had a burst of bubble. I'm like, well, first off, not even Mexican, dude. He's Puerto Rican. So that already, you know, just...
He's obviously like Taino background. Obviously Native American, but bro, he's... Anyway, it's so embarrassing, man.
So I understand the pride where it comes to and it blinds you and stuff. But what I've always said, like I even tell my kids, like, look, it's okay to be prideful of who you are, where you come from. But just remember this: race will not get you where you want to go. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're a black kid and embrace your culture, love it. But this doesn't mean you have to hate other cultures or other faces, okay? Because being black, being Mexican, being Irish, being whatever you are, it's not going to pay your bills.
But what I'd like my African American brothers and sisters to do is to like actually look into the history of the sport, right? Kid Chocolate from Cuba, it's a black man. Yeah. I mean, it's in his fucking name, right? Yeah. He's also Latino, obviously, because he speaks Spanish, and his slave masters were Spanish people from Spain. Mm-hmm. But he's a black man, right? Yes. There are plenty of Latino fighters that are black. It's just always been the case.
Yes.
Whether it's Tito or even Felix Verdejo right now. Felix Verdejo is no less black than Beyonce, Jay-Z, or any of these people. You know what I mean? And I just don't understand why this division has started and has been created out of absolutely nothing. It's literally out of absolutely nothing, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, but like I said, look, if you think boxing is racist, well, then you haven't paid attention. It's always been racist, okay? Manny Pacquiao fans were very racist towards Latinos.
Very much so.
Let me tell you this, okay? Paul Williams, phenomenal fighter. We used to get him on all the time here on Leaving Ring before the accident. And I remember one thing that Paul Williams just wasn't getting the credit. He wasn't bringing in, he couldn't draw the crowd. And I remember him, go back, and this is a receipt you can find on Leaving the Ring, is he really complained about African-American fans. He said, hey, they don't support us the way the Latino fans support their fighters, or the way UK fans support, you know? So maybe that's why the trend is out. You know, maybe that's why the trend right now that African Americans feel they have to back up their guy no matter what, which is a great thing. It's a great thing. But don't fall in. This is even for Latinos, okay? Or even for Asian fans and stuff, for anybody, okay? Don't fall into that pit, that dark pit of the sport where you think you have to hate the other guy because he's different. You're missing a big part of the beauty of this sport. This is a world sport. That's what it is.
Sport, global sport. And what I always try to tell everybody, and I tell this to my students, I tell this to my friends, I tell this to everybody, don't look for things that make us different all the times.
Right.
It's also important to look at things that make us, very similar as human beings, right?
Absolutely.
The majority of us are working people. We're getting stomped on by the man, for lack of a better word.
Yep.
The capitalist neoliberal system that we all live under and all struggle under and all try to survive under. We're all brothers and sisters, man. We're all working people here. So let's get together and let's unite and let's move forward. Like all of these little divisions, it's terrible.
It is. There's no wrong in a little banter between fans. Like, if you like Teofimo Lopez and you like Lomachenko, or if you like Manny, and you know what I mean. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with debating whose fighter is going to win a fight. But when you get clouded with thinking that, well, because my fighter's black and blah 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 blah, and all black, the Latinos wouldn't have gotten anywhere if it wasn't for blacks and blah blah. Then you honestly fell off the edge. And that's when my ears closed, because I'm like,
You fell off the edge, and you also have no sense of actual history. Like the New York, the Cubans were in the Negro Leagues, bro. It's like of baseball. Like what are we talking about? It's in the past episode, I was asking people to throw me these YouTube channels so I could kind of go on and school people. But I almost think like they don't even want to know. I feel like they just benefit from the fact that they've got the little ignorant fan base that jumps onto their shows and that relishes living in the hate.
Mm-hmm.
Because
it's sad, man.
It's very sad.
It's sad.
It's very sad.
Even with that interview with that guy. And having the kids that came on, okay? And I'm calling them kids because I'm probably old enough to be their dad, That's why. No disrespect. I'm not calling them kids because of that, Because they are kids to me. These kids are going on there, and you guys were literally threatening and insulting another man of color, a working man. A man that had a fight to get where he's at, that was under the tutelage of a great trainer. You literally embarrassed not just your community, all communities.
Right. And you're training, Dave, a guy who's from an ethnic minority group in Europe that has faced like significant discrimination. Absolutely. I'm talking about the gypsies.
We need to get out of that mindset, of being a thug and thinking that that's okay for us to use intimidation. I'm not just talking about the black community, Hispanic community. We do the same thing. Like, it's sad to see. I see kids arguing about, my gang is better and I'm in this, my homeboys. It's like, is that where we're at as a people? Is that what we were striving for? No, it's not.
The unfortunate thing about all of this, Dave, and maybe we'll have to do this as a separate upload where we kind of do a deep dive into this, but
right.
All of this only benefits one group, and it's the ruling class.
Right.
We're talking about the 1%. We're talking about the class of people that's running the country, that's exploiting every last one of us, that's denying people health care and housing and food security and everything else, because they get us bickering amongst one another about these trivial ass things, man.
It absolutely does. And like I said, there is no wrong. There's no hurt in having some banter between each other, of saying, okay, well, my fighter, could do this, blah, blah. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you start bringing in whose race or culture is more superior, now you're not even talking about boxing at all.
And we gotta end this, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, same here. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. I know Milcar won't be here next week on Monday, but I will be. So I'll see you guys next week. Don't drink and drive because you will spill your beer. Ooh, man.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to our community here, and we'll be back soon. I'm going to be uploading too in the ride home from work hours. Let's just call it.
Really?
Got to get this podcast. Yeah, Dave. I'm thinking about uploading on like 5 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Eastern, just going through the daily shit in boxing, just to kind of hone my craft a little bit and get better at what we're doing every day.
Yeah, you need to start sending in that audio. You got a lot of folks asking when it's going to be on the rotation there, buddy.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I'll get that to you for sure.
All right, folks. Well, you guys all take care, man, and I truly enjoyed this show, and I hope to speak to everybody next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros.